We've assembled a really jarring collection of sources today.
Yeah, they don't seem to fit together at first glance.
Not at all. If you line these ancient texts up, you have one that details this total, absolute military failure, public humiliation.
And then right next to it, you've got this other story about a single, immediate, intensely personal act of healing.
The contrast is just, it's overwhelming.
It really forces you to re-examine where power actually resides. Our mission in this deep dive is to synthesize this material. We're drawing from the historical narrative in 1 Samuel.
Chapter 4.
Right. And the deep communal grief you find in Psalm 44. And then contrast that with the sharp focus of the gospel in Mark.
Mark 1, yeah.
And through that, we want to figure out how these different people understood defeat, divine presence, and ultimately, restoration.
It feels like our sources are asking a core question. Is salvation found in these big external displays of might and leverage, or is it found in deep internal mercy? And you, the learner, are about to see the consequences of betting on the wrong one. We have to start where everything went wrong, at the Battle of Ebenezer.
We really need to establish the scale of this historical disaster first, because it is catastrophic.
It is.
Israel goes out to meet the Philistines. They engage, and in just the first phase of the fighting, they lose about 4,000 men.
Which is a significant military setback, but it's manageable, right? It's not the end of the world.
Not yet, but it's what happens next. The elders panic.
Manageable until the panic sets in, and their reaction is the first key insight we need to unpack. They look at the defeat and immediately demand, why has the Lord permitted us to be defeated today by the Philistines?
That question tells you everything.
It does. They aren't asking, what tactical errors did we make, or where did our preparation fail?
No, it's immediately a theological problem for them. They're positioning the divine as the primary cause of their defeat.
Which leads them to make this fatal error in logic.
It's a fatal theological error. They treat the relationship with the divine as transactional. If we lost, it must be because the power we leverage has failed us.
So their conclusion is that they just need a bigger display of that power.
Exactly. Force the issue.
So they decide to try to force divine intervention. The decision is made to fetch the Ark of the Lord of Hosts from Shiloh.
And their stated intention is for it to go into battle among us and save us from the grasp of our enemies.
They are trying to turn the most sacred object they possess into a tactical nuclear deterrent.
And we should probably pause on the jargon here. When the sources say the Lord is enthroned upon the cherubim, they're talking about the ark as the physical manifestation of God's presence. It's essentially his mobile throne.
So in ancient Near Eastern thought, if you had the God's throne,
you had the God. The elders believe that simply bringing the object will compel God to fight for them, regardless of their own conduct or state of repentance. It's an attempt to, domesticate the power of the divine.
And crucially, who accompanies this sacred tactical object? Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas.
Men the text has already established as corrupt.
Right. The people are focused entirely on the hardware. The physical ark, believing its presence, guarantees victory, while ignoring the complete spiritual rot in the system and among those carrying it.
But despite Israel's spiritual blind spots, the Philistines certainly understood the symbolic weight of the ark.
Oh, absolutely. When it arrives, Israel shouts so loudly the ground literally shakes. And the Philistines, they panic.
They're absolutely terrified. Our sources give us their internal dialogue. Gods have come to their camp.
And they immediately flash back to ancient history, recalling that these are the gods that struck the Egyptians with various plagues and with pestilence. They know this power is real.
Terrifying and historically destructive. But here's a fascinating nugget of knowledge here. The Philistines' response is the inverse of Israel's panic.
How?
Instead of folding, they find this fierce, desperate resolve. They rally their men. Take courage and be manly, Philistines. Otherwise, you will become slaves to the Hebrews, so fight manfully.
So for them, retreat means utter subjugation.
Exactly. So they choose a courage rooted in self-preservation, which, ironically, Israel lacked.
And that desperation pays off disastrously for Israel.
A complete disaster. The Philistines win the battle. The sources are precise. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers.
30,000. But the true calamity is not the number of dead. It's the cultural, religious, and political collapse that follows. The Ark of God is captured.
And Hophni and Phinehas are killed.
Both of them.
It is the ultimate national disgrace. The loss of the ark was the loss of their greatest symbol of identity and presence. The sources then immediately transition to the emotional depth of that failure with Psalm 44.
And this isn't just failure. The feeling is like they've been cosmically cheated. The language is so intense. They cry out, reflecting the feeling of being cast off, put in disgrace, and driven back by foes who just plundered them.
They feel like an international joke.
Yeah, made the reproach of our neighbors and a byword among the nations. That communal shame is the core emotional insight here.
They feel abandoned and forgotten. The psalm culminates in that raw question of abandonment. Why do you hide your face, forgetting our woe and our oppression, for our souls are bowed down to the dust?
It's just devastating.
And this sets the context. National salvation, sought through external force, resulted in 30,000 deaths and the deepest conceivable spiritual crisis.
Now hold that massive communal defeat in your mind, the shouting armies, the shaking earth, the disgrace, and let's pivot.
A huge pivot.
We are moving from the battlefield of Ebenezer to a dusty roadside in Mark 1, where we find a solitary man.
The contrast is everything. We go from 30,000 casualties in a national crisis to a singular figure kneeling in the dirt.
The leper. And the leper is the epitome of the shame and disgrace that Psalm 44 described on a national level. He is physically broken, ritually unclean, and completely socially isolated.
In that culture, leprosy wasn't just a disease. It was civil death.
Yet his approach demonstrates a profound faith and humility that the elders at Ebenezer totally lacked.
He doesn't petition for might. He petitions for will. He says, if you wish, you can make me clean.
That's the key, that humility and total trust. He knows Jesus has the power. He's only asking if Jesus has the mercy.
A beautiful distinction.
And Jesus' reaction just breaks all the rules instantly. The sources say he was moved with pity or profound compassion, and then comes the truly radical act. He stretches out his hand and touches the leper.
That touch is not incidental. It's transformative. Religious law demanded that if you touched a leper, you became unclean.
Right.
Jesus doesn't worry about contracting impurity. He transmits purity. He actively dissolves the ritual barriers, validating the man's physical pain and restoring his total social inclusion all at once.
The command is so simple and authoritative. I do will it. Be made clean.
And it's instant.
The physical cleansing is instant, but the restoration is much deeper. This man moves immediately from being untouchable and disgraced back into the dignity of the community. His body is fixed, but his social standing, his spiritual identity, they're also immediately healed.
It's a complete about-face from the communal shame of Psalm 44. The promise we see cited in the sources Psalm 103, he forgives all your iniquity, he heals all your diseases, is not just about physical health.
No, it's about total restoration of relationship and identity.
Yes.
But then comes the logistical complication that sets up our final comparison.
A twist.
Jesus sternly warns him, see that you tell no one anything. He's instructed to go show himself to the priest and offer what Moses prescribed as proof of his cleansing, but he must remain quiet about who healed him.
So why the stern warning for silence?
That's the question.
In part, it was probably to prevent Jesus from becoming instantly overwhelmed by massive uncontrolled crowds, or maybe to sidestep political turmoil.
It makes sense. He needed the man to follow the procedural law, show the priest, to re-enter society properly, but keep the ministry itself quiet for a time.
But the profound nature of the transformation made silence impossible.
It seems so. The man immediately goes away and began to publicize the whole matter and spread the report abroad. He disobeyed the sternest instruction he was given.
Because the gratitude for his total restoration was simply too large to contain.
And this act of disobedience had a massive immediate consequence for Jesus' ministry.
It did. Because the report spread so fast and widely, the sources tell us it became impossible for Jesus to enter a town openly. He was forced to remain outside in deserted places.
The healed leper, once isolated, now forces Jesus into isolation.
What an incredible reversal.
Here's where the analysis deepens. We have watched an entire nation attempt to summon a domesticated god onto the battlefield,
Which resulted in utter disgrace and destruction.
And now we see healing flow from an intensely personal, compassionate touch. But that healing immediately destroys the established operational model of the healer.
It's a fantastic comparison. In 1 Samuel, the people relied on an external symbol, the ark, to guarantee military success. They wanted leverage.
And that pursuit resulted in failure and the loss of the symbol itself.
They missed the core insight that genuine divine presence must be met with humility and repentance, not tactical maneuvering.
But in Mark, the leper relied entirely on mercy.
Completely.
His healing flowed from a personal encounter, a stretch of the hand, a compassionate will. It wasn't about leveraging might. It was about trusting in complete self-giving mercy.
And the reflection we have points out that true healing transforms both the heart and the life. It wasn't enough for the leper to just be physically well.
No, he had to be socially reintegrated, moving from that state of disgrace, cited in Psalm 44, back into a state of total dignity.
That transformation is complete. It connects physical cleansing to spiritual forgiveness.
And we have to return to that paradox of the leper's disobedience. He was commanded sternly to be silent.
And yet he immediately became a public messenger. His publicizing made Jesus' ministry operationally difficult, forcing him out of the town centers.
Yet, despite the inconvenience, the news of the restoration was so compelling that people still converged on Jesus, coming from everywhere.
The power of a life truly restored transcends geography and organized ministry spaces. It just finds a way.
It's almost as if the dignity-restoring nature of the healing inherently demanded a public witness.
That's a great way to put it.
When you move from dust and isolation to complete wholeness, silence is simply an option that ceases to exist, regardless of the consequences to the person who gave the gift.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? We've explored this tension between seeking massive external deliverance,
A pursuit that led to 30,000 casualties and national shame.
and receiving internal compassionate restoration, which brought a single man dignity but complicated the life of the healer.
The key takeaway, it seems, is that true power, the kind that restores identity and cleanses wounds, is found not in leveraging symbols for military advantage, but in a humble reliance on personal, unconditional mercy.
It's the victory of a singular, compassionate touch over the demand for national conquering might.
And this deep dive leaves us with an important question for further thought.
The leper, having experienced this profound, dignity-restoring transformation, immediately broke the rule. He became a powerful public messenger, forcing Jesus to change his entire operation.
So consider this. When you experience a fundamental, life-changing restoration of health, hope, or spirit, does the nature of that change inherently demand a public response?
Even if that response goes against the accepted order, the instruction for silence, or the convenience of others.
How does total, overwhelming gratitude conflict with the command for stern obedience?
Something to think about as you continue your own journey of knowledge.